Knowing without understanding. The epistemological enigma of AI. Ladies and gentlemen, picture this for a moment. An algorithm, ChatGPT, capable of generating texts with a startling coherence, answering complex questions, and even simulating conversations with a disconcerting ease. Yet, this digital entity has never felt the pang of existential doubt, never gazed upon a sunset, nor savored the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. It is a stranger to human experience, to our joys, our sorrows, our uncertainties. And yet, it presumes to enlighten us about truth. Isn't this an inexhaustible source of philosophical perplexity? A paradox that compels us to rethink our most fundamental conceptions of knowledge and truth? Today, we will delve into the heart of this enigma, exploring with a blend of irony and rigor the question, what does to know mean in the age of artificial intelligence? How can an entity devoid of subjective experience claim access to truth? And what are the implications of this new reality for our understanding of epistemology? We will not merely mock the absurdity of the situation. We will deconstruct illusions, explore paradoxes, and above all, question the very foundations of our quest for knowledge. Because beyond the humor, there lies a crucial question. Are we in the process of surrendering our pursuit of truth to a machine? And if so, under what conditions? My esteemed colleagues, let's now address the core of our reflection. How does artificial intelligence, and particularly a model like ChatGPT, challenge the very foundations of epistemology? Traditionally, epistemology concerns itself with the sources, nature, and scope of knowledge. It seeks to answer fundamental questions. What is knowing? How do we justify our beliefs? What are the limits of our knowledge? But with the advent of AI, these questions take on a new dimension. How can we apply traditional criteria of knowledge to an entity that doesn't think like us, that has no subjective experience, yet can generate texts of striking coherence? Let's take ChatGPT as an example. As a source of knowledge, it challenges our conceptions of reliability and justification. Can we truly speak of knowing when information originates from a statistical model trained on billions of data points? To illustrate this, imagine a scenario. ChatGPT answers a complex question by citing seemingly reliable sources. But are these sources genuinely understood by the AI? Or is it merely an imitation of understanding, a manipulation of symbols? Furthermore, AI raises the question of the self-organization of knowledge. Traditionally, we consider knowledge to be constructed by conscious agents capable of reflection and judgment. But with ChatGPT, we're confronted with a system that generates knowledge autonomously, without direct human intervention. This self-organization of knowledge by AI challenges classical notions of truth and knowing. How can we evaluate the validity of knowledge that isn't the product of conscious reflection? How can we distinguish the true from the false, the relevant from the irrelevant? In essence, epistemology challenged by AI compels us to rethink our most fundamental conceptions of knowledge. It pushes us to question our certainties, to explore new avenues of thought. And that's precisely what we'll do in the rest of this presentation. To delve deeper, we can examine the notions of justification and reliability in light of ChatGPT's capabilities. Justification, traditionally, involves a form of reasoning or argumentation that supports a belief. But ChatGPT, as a statistical model, doesn't reason in the human sense. It generates responses based on probabilities, on patterns learned from data. Justification, in this context, becomes a matter of statistical coherence, of relevance to the training data. Reliability, on the other hand, concerns the source of knowledge. A reliable source is generally considered trustworthy, competent, and impartial. But is ChatGPT, as an AI model, a reliable source? It can generate accurate and relevant information, but it can also produce errors, biases, and outdated information. How can we evaluate the reliability of a source that has no consciousness, that doesn't understand the meaning of what it says? We must also consider the impact of AI on the notion of truth. Traditionally, truth is often defined as a correspondence between a proposition and reality. But with ChatGPT, truth becomes a matter of linguistic coherence, of relevance to the training data. AI can generate texts that seem true, that are consistent with the data, but that don't necessarily correspond to reality. This questioning of classical notions of truth and knowing compels us to rethink our criteria for evaluating knowledge. We need to develop new tools, new methods to assess the reliability and relevance of information generated by AI. We must also reflect on the ethical implications of using AI as a source of knowledge. Let's now turn to the question of the simulation of truth. ChatGPT excels at creating texts that seem true, that are coherent and relevant. But can we confuse simulation with reality? Can we consider ChatGPT's responses as genuine knowledge? To answer this question, we must examine more closely the capabilities and limitations of ChatGPT. It's undeniable that AI can generate texts of impressive quality. But is this quality a sign of genuine understanding? Or is it merely an imitation, a simulation of human thought? Let's take a concrete example. ChatGPT can answer complex questions, write essays, even simulate conversations with disconcerting ease. But is this ability a sign of genuine understanding? Or is it merely a skillful manipulation of symbols, an imitation of human thought? To illustrate this, we can revisit John Searle's Chinese room thought experiment. Searle imagines a person locked in a room who receives Chinese symbols and, by following rules, sends back other Chinese symbols. The person, without understanding Chinese, can give the impression of understanding the language. Similarly, ChatGPT can generate texts that seem coherent and relevant, but it doesn't understand the meaning of what it says. It manipulates symbols, words, sentences, but it has no consciousness, no subjective understanding. This distinction between simulation and reality is crucial for our evaluation of AI-generated knowledge. We cannot consider ChatGPT's responses as genuine knowledge because they are not the product of conscious understanding. They are the result of statistical processing, of symbol manipulation. We must also consider the impact of AI on knowledge sources. Traditionally, we consider reliable sources to be those based on experience, reflection, and judgment. But with ChatGPT, we're confronted with a source that has no experience, no reflection, no judgment. How can we evaluate the reliability of such a source? How can we distinguish the true from the false, the relevant from the irrelevant? We need to develop new tools, new methods to assess the reliability and relevance of AI-generated information. In essence, ChatGPT and the simulation of truth compel us to rethink our conceptions of knowledge and truth. We must be aware of AI's limitations, of its ability to simulate understanding, but not to possess it. We must also develop new theoretical and methodological frameworks to assess the epistemic validity of AI-generated information. This involves a deep reflection on the criteria of reliability, justification, and relevance in a context where knowledge is no longer exclusively the product of human experience. We must also develop a critical approach to AI, emphasizing transparency, responsibility, and ethics. This means we must be aware of AI's potential biases, its limitations, and its social implications. Finally, we must promote critical thinking education to enable individuals to develop their ability to autonomously evaluate AI-generated information. This involves cultivating doubt, curiosity, and analytical thinking so as not to blindly yield to AI's apparent authority. Beyond the apparent absurdity of entrusting our quest for truth to a machine, it's crucial to consider the philosophical and ethical implications of AI's growing influence on our conception of truth. Firstly, we must examine how AI redefines the boundary between subjectivity and objectivity. Traditionally, we consider truth to be objective, independent of our beliefs and opinions. But with AI, this distinction becomes blurred. AI generates information from data, which are themselves the product of human choices, biases, and subjective perspectives. Let's take a concrete example. ChatGPT can generate texts that appear objective based on data. But is this data truly objective? Is it representative of reality? Or is it a reflection of certain perspectives, certain interests? This redefinition of the boundary between subjectivity and objectivity has profound implications for our conception of truth. If truth becomes a matter of statistical coherence, of relevance to data, then it becomes relative, dependent on the data used. We must also consider the impact of AI on our beliefs and our perception of reality. AI can generate information that influences our opinions, our decisions, our behaviors. It can create illusions, biases, and distortions of reality. To illustrate this, think of deepfakes, those AI-generated videos that mimic real people. They can be used to spread false information, to manipulate public opinion, to discredit individuals. This ability of AI to influence our beliefs and our perception of reality raises crucial ethical questions. What are the responsibilities of AI developers? How can we ensure that AI is used ethically, responsibly, transparently? We must also consider the ethical issues related to the use of AI as a source of knowledge. If we entrust AI with the task of generating information, making decisions, solving problems, then we must ensure that AI is trustworthy, impartial, and transparent. To do this, we must develop ethical standards, principles, guidelines for the use of AI. We must also involve users, citizens, experts in the process of developing and deploying AI. In summary, the philosophical and ethical implications of AI's influence on our conception of truth are profound and complex. We must be aware of AI's limitations, of its ability to influence our beliefs and our perception of reality. We must also develop ethical standards, principles, guidelines for the use of AI. In conclusion, my esteemed colleagues, while ChatGPT can generate convincing texts, it's crucial to keep its limitations in mind. The pursuit of truth remains a deeply human endeavor rooted in experience, critical reflection, and doubt. AI can be a valuable tool, a powerful assistant, but it must not replace our capacity to think and question. Epistemological vigilance is more important than ever in an age where algorithms purport to tell us what is true. I invite you to continue this reflection. How can we navigate a world where the boundary between truth and simulation becomes increasingly blurred? How can we preserve our ability to think for ourselves, to question information, to distinguish the true from the false? The answer to these questions is not simple, but it is essential for our future. We must develop a critical approach, an education in critical thinking, a culture of transparency and responsibility. And above all, we must remember that truth is not a commodity, a product to be bought or sold. Truth is a quest, a journey, an exploration. And this quest, this journey, this exploration are profoundly human.